This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 after 7 on this 29th day of August. Kenya's biggest conversation gets into its second hour, and conversations will be had this hour with Daisy Amdany about, looking into constitutionalism and gender. Before that happens, let me remind you about certain things that are happening in just 2 days. In 2 days, you get an opportunity to go down to the Gallant Mall, where there will be the opportunity again that has presented itself for you to find out a lot of information about what world universities have to offer when it comes to an out-of-country experience in education. It's the Cradle Study Abroad World Fair. It's from 11 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, the 31st of August. It takes place at the Gallant Mall in Nairobi. So now you ask, why? What should we go to do there? Okay, so this is university admission season, or rather university opening season. A lot of people getting into school, and sometimes you say, okay, yes, I want to do my I want to have education abroad. I want to be able to explore what that means. Well, Cradle says, look, we've been able to see the gaps in the market. We've been able to link technology with need. We've been able to say specificity is required in certain work areas, in certain countries, in the particular university that you will go to. We've taken time to study all the mechanics of this thing, and we've put them together on a platform where we can take you and your desires and match you to the correct university in the correct country. Sound good? I think it does. And then what you do is you come down to the Gallant Mall on Saturday. You can meet many of these universities that will be there. Grenada, the USA, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Cyprus, Ireland. It goes on and on and on. And the different universities will be there to showcase what they have to offer. You can apply and get admission on that day. You can find out information about scholarships and apply for them. Visa officers will be on board to explain to you what you need to do. And you can also get to know a little bit more about your accommodation if that's what you choose. You can come in at 11, find the information out, and leave at 4 with the decision in the bag. It is happening this Saturday. You can log on to www.cradle.com and register. And then you can also call 0799 000 444. It's the Cradle Study Abroad World Fair taking place this Saturday. Take advantage of that. Okay, so Daisy will be with us shortly. I know she will be here soon, but even before she comes, there's certain things that we just need to mention as pertains to the state of things in the country. We saw these throngs of people when the president came out, and it seemed as though the language has changed, and suddenly they're talking about a pact. A pact has been created, and because of that, you can say that 2027, the vote for the president coming out of this particular region is in the bag.
No, you can't.
Okay.
No, you can't. Not if you understand the fluidity of our politics.
Mm-hmm.
The changes that come about that we know of may prod you into trying to predict. But the thing about politics is that there's something unexpected always happens. Who foresaw the Gen Z protests?
Nobody.
Who foresaw the impact they will have? Some people think there was no impact. Some want to believe there was an impact. Whatever it is that one wants to believe, you believe what you like, but we are not where we were before. The protests have changed the way we look at things in this country.
Yeah.
And the citizenry have realized that you actually matter and that your voice can actually be heard. And that if you determine and you're serious, you can actually change things. Now, the reason why you see those huge crowds is not because they love the person of the leader. No, it is because these leaders represent something they're hoping they will get. It is the hope that drives them there. It is the hope that makes people follow leaders. It is the hope that so long as this person is in place, because alongside that discussion is the issue that has arisen about people saying Raila is a traitor.
Yeah. Yeah, because after all the years of the fight for the opposition, how do you just drop it like a hot potato and say that you're going to go in this other direction?
That is what people are saying, meaning they had embedded a lot of hope in him. And so long as he was in the position where, I don't remember the public participation where this was discussed, but anyway, it was determined that that is the official position, leader of the official position for posterity. Okay?
Yes.
So long as there's that hope, there will be crowds. So long as there's vision, there will be crowds. But fickle as crowds are, it requires one sentence, and that same crowd that are jumping, and we will, as you say very correctly, will throw stones at you and chase you.
Yep.
Same crowd.
Yeah. And so you need to be wary of that. That you cannot take one Wednesday afternoon, and look at the throngs of people who come to you, and then you say to yourself, you know what, actually, we've got this. And that because I've come here, and, basically what he's done is that he's come and he's said, I've given three men from this region an opportunity to be with me right there in the center of governing this country. And they're yours. So by virtue of the fact that I've done your region a favor...
Have I not done a big thing?
I've done a big thing. And so now you've welcomed me with open arms. And it can only mean one thing, that if I should come back and say I want to be president, based on the fact that I have done this for you...
You will also do this other thing for me.
Scratch my back, I scratch yours even harder.
Well, that's the thing. This isn't one of those situations where 1 + 1 is equal to 2.
Mm-hmm.
No.
1 + 1 in this case can be equal to 5.
I'm not even sure it's equal to anything. It's being presented as 1 + 1. I'm not even sure it's 1 + 1.
Mm-hmm. It could be something. We don't even know what it is.
We think it's an addition, but it could be a multiplication. Then what if it's
or
a division?
Subtraction?
Or a division? What then do you do?
Yes. Indeed. Well, so at this point, we're getting into our conversation for this hour. And we're looking specifically at understanding constitutionalism and women's rights. And the very lovely Daisy Amdany is here with us this morning in my favorite color. Daisy, good morning.
Good morning, Good morning, City. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
You seem a bit flustered.
Amazing how time can get away from you in the morning.
When you think
it does that, especially in the morning. One moment it's 5 o'clock, and then you turn around and you look at the watch again, it's 7, and you're thinking, what happened? Where did the 2 hours go to? Yes.
But it's not even just the morning. I think I've been saying time is moving so fast. When we were younger, when I was in school, I mean, not just school, even, my early working days, time just didn't seem to move, Now, you blink, it's January. You blink, it's December.
August 29th.
Next it's 2024. It will be 2030. I mean, time is moving.
It is. And even as it moves, there are certain things that need to happen because, there's no time like the present to get them done, to get them spoken about, to get them, sorted out. And one of those things is the conversation that we're having today when we talk about constitutionalism and women's rights. So thank you for being here today. Let's welcome you properly so you get a Wusa moment. CT has Proverbs this week from Algeria.
Okay.
The People's Republic.
Oh, sorry, please. The People's Republic.
Yes. It's a very interesting country, though. It's, we were colonized by just one group of people. Came from some place in Europe called England. They later called it Great Britain. But Algeria were fortunate that there were quite a number of people who traversed their land and claimed ownership at some point. Have you heard of the Phoenicians?
Yeah.
Romans, everybody has heard of the Romans.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you heard of the Vandals?
The people who steal from people. No?
Well, have you heard of the Goths?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Byzantine? Greeks? Turks, of course.
Beware of Greeks. Huh?
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, the Turks were the lords of the Ottoman Empire, remember? Now, when you have a country that has been visited by very many groups of people who at some point or the other claimed to own an empire and so you're part of it, it means that's a country that has gone through very many changes. But often neglected in this whole equation are the natives, the people who originally called that their land. Yes, the Berbers, or it's written Berber, but we pronounce it Berbers.
Yeah.
Former minority, but it was their country. Yet the majority of people in that country now are of Arab descent.
Yeah.
Okay. The proverb. What did I want to say today?
The Algerian proverb.
Yes.
The proverb, the water and the chopping.
Yeah, this was me thinking aloud.
Okay.
Cross the loud river and don't cross the silent one.
Daisy?
I think it reminds me of yet another proverb. I don't know where it's drawn from. Where it talks about still waters running deep. So the quiet waters may be quiet, but are hiding a lot of things, underneath, and you cannot establish the depth of them or the perils that might be in there.
Lurking beneath.
Whereas that which is loud and bubbly and everything shows itself. So I think if you look at it in reference to how to, those who what you see is what you get, and others, you do not know the depths of what you're dealing with.
Very true. Very interesting, actually. That water can be, mirrored in so many other things,
Yes, it can.
even for human beings,
Yeah.
Yes,
and
it
how we
can.
operate.
When you talk about the force of nature, what always comes to mind?
It does.
As does the wind.
Okay, so we're looking at constitutionalism this morning and women's rights, Daisy. And we hear this big word all the time. So how about there as a place to start with before we now marry the two and how they can work hand in hand? Constitutionalism and ism, belief. What exactly is constitutionalism, first of all?
I think constitutionalism is really abiding by the constitution that you set, agreeing as a people, as a country, to be guided by the set of laws that you have bequeathed yourself, right? That this is your organizing document, this is who we say we are on paper, and so we then work towards being or working within the confines of those laws that we have put in place.
In place.
Yes.
So why is it important then that people within a boundary of a nation, for example, operate within, if they do have the Constitution, which is the supreme law, why is it important that you abide within, the boundaries then of this constitutionalism? Why?
Because people have, a nation is made up of people of different beliefs, different faiths, different traditions, and different cultures. However, the Constitution sets for us what we have agreed as a people called Kenya, despite our various tribes, despite our different religions and cultures and traditions, we have agreed to be organized like this, as is enshrined within this Constitution. And so there are places where your tradition and your practices are set aside because of the aspirations of who we have said we are as a people. Because the Constitution says who Kenyans, the aspirations that Kenyans want to see in their country. This is who we are, right? So it is important that we be guided by that, because you can imagine the kind of chaos if everybody was doing their own thing, If everybody does what seems right in their own eyes, it can be very chaotic.
Is that not what we are currently...
Yes, we are, because now in Kenya we have a situation where we have what is called constitutions without constitutionalism, whereby we have leaders that refuse to be fettered within the bounds of the Constitution and basically want to do as they please, right? And it's important also because, the Constitution, it sets it restrains, it constrains power and disperses it as well, to different offices and to different sections, right? So it is a very important document because it also gives us the consistency that we need as a nation, so that people are not just doing as they please. When you have rules and when you have laws, it gives you guidance and gives you certain expectations. We expect that when you get into this office, this is how you are required to behave. These are the limits of your power, right? These are the limits of how far you can go, right? So You are not supposed to extend. You agree. So when, like, you see, our president swears allegiance to the Constitution, as do our members of parliament when they take oath of office. All cabinet secretaries, they all swear allegiance, and they agree to be bound by the Constitution, to uphold it, and to protect it, right? Because it's an important document, right? It sets it is the organizing document for Kenya.
Yes.
Okay? It is the contract between those that govern, or those that are given the privilege to govern, and those to whom the power belongs, that is, the rights holders. So, of course, it declares the people as sovereign. So the sovereign have agreed to be governed in this. So it's essentially our social contract.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So just like the way you have contracts, when a contract is breached, then, of course, there's cause for concern, right? But it gives you expectations. If today, Ndu, your job description is to be a radio presenter, and when you are being assessed, you are told that you didn't clean the toilets. That is not your job, you know. And there are certain things that you know that you can say, no, this is not my job. However, there are things that are required of you that you know, and then you do them, right? So it's the same thing. It's a social contract between those that are being governed, those that are governing. It establishes the bounds and boundaries of power, rights, and entitlements, and also responsibilities.
Who holds... So from constitutionalism and looking at the Constitution, then there are those who are directly involved in making sure that it is lived out in the way it was meant to from its origin. There are those who are the guardians of it. And that's everybody at some level.
That is everybody, not at some level.
As in, you as an individual, you as somebody in government, everybody has, at whatever level, everybody has something that they're supposed to be doing to ensure that the Constitution lives out, right?
Yes.
So when that doesn't happen, who is to hold the other to account?
Well, then the people who are offended can then claim they can seek redress, right? So first of all, it binds all of us. So it binds state officers, public officers, and it binds all citizens, right? We are bound, all of us. So we are all bound to uphold the Constitution. So there's nobody who is excluded from abiding by the Constitution. However, if there's an infringement, the Constitution says that the courts, we can go to the courts, and the courts then interpret the Constitution. They have been given that right to interpret the Constitution, right?
Are we all bound in the same way? I mean, is our understanding of this binding, is our understanding of this social contract the same? Because if I look at the genesis of just the basic understanding of any social contract, it begins at birth and the social setup in which you are reared. That's where you understand it.
Sure.
Because within a family, there's always a social contract.
Yes.
This is how you go about it.
Yes.
Now,
and you're instructed from childhood.
Exactly.
Yes.
Does that social contract then not more or less set the foundation of how it is I'm going to be interpreting social contracts in the future?
So we are supposed to be taught this because, you see, I think one of the misconceptions is that the Constitution is supposed to be interpreted by people who understand law. But because we are all bound by it, we have a responsibility to know it, because we have certain rights and responsibilities under the Constitution. So it should be taught to us, right? So the Constitution should actually be taught from school, so that people understand what it is, because the Constitution sets who we are as Kenyans.
Right.
So you need to know, what are my rights that I may be able to claim them, but what are my responsibilities that I may be able to do them? And I think this is what we are seeing today, like with the Gen Z. When the Gen Z have been going out, when they've been going out and protesting, what are they doing? They're claiming their rights as enshrined in the Constitution, right?
Okay, yeah.
They know and they understand their rights, right? And so they're able to demand accountability from the duty bearers, who rightfully are supposed to be accountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as the Constitution as it is broad.
Very.
Broad in the sense that, it handles very, very many issues.
Yes.
From education to what is the rights of Kenyans, to what you should do in governance, etc., etc. One of the big ticket items in the Constitution is gender equality and the rights of women. Let's go into that a little bit and say, what does the Constitution actually say for those two areas in Kenya today? What is supposed to be and what is the current situation? And if there is, what's the cause for concern?
Okay, so the Constitution gives rights and entitlements to all persons, including women, youth, and persons with disability, and centers issues of inclusion, equality, equity, and participation of the people.
Okay.
It is among the national values and principles of governance. Now, it's important to understand why it is enshrined in the Constitution because of where we came from. Remember that we had an independence constitution. The independence constitution was a negotiated document. Constitutions are usually negotiated documents, but it was negotiated with the outgoing colonial powers, who obviously were trying to secure certain entitlements, their own entitlements, and the incoming natives, right? So it was a few people. It was negotiated. It was a few people negotiating at the desk. But when you look at how the law was framed, women were not recognized, or rather didn't have the same rights and entitlements that their male counterparts had. For instance, women could not confer citizenship to their children.
Okay.
Like, assuming that you are a Kenyan woman married to a foreign person and you give birth in Kenya, you gave birth in Kenya,
Yes.
you would assume, and you would assume that your child would be Kenyan. But because the father was not Kenyan, the law did not give you, a Kenyan woman, the right to confer citizenship to your child,
children.
even when born in Kenya. Okay? Yet, the law conferred citizenship to a child born of a Kenyan father, even if they were born outside. Of Kenya. So, completely, you were complete. I mean, like, you were excluded that way. The other thing is, their laws did not recognize women as bona fide citizens. I remember as recently, because, I'm not that old, as recently as when we were in school.
Before you go on, the bona fide meaning, what's the meaning of the word?
Card carrying
Yes.
member.
Yes.
I mean, was legitimate?
Well, I suppose you could say some way legitimate, but like a card carrying member of something.
Because why I ask is because it has legal implications, does it
Yes,
not?
it did. It had.
Please continue.
Okay. As recently as when we were in school, women, to open a bank account, you needed either, if you were married, the permission of your husband.
Yes.
If you were not married, your father. If you had no father, your brother. And if you had none of those, then maybe the chief or your pastor or your religious leader. In essence, the law...
Some male individual.
Yes, a male individual, but basically saying that an adult woman did not have the agency of even a male child,
For her
boy,
own money.
Even the laws, the way the laws were framed, even around assault, sexual assault, that you would have to be able to prove your case, whereas a male child could, by their own word, be taken. We know that the culture did not allow tradition and culture, and of course then it was in practice, the inheritance. Women were excluded from inheriting because women were basically seen as property.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you
My
were
sheep
for
and my
bringing
wives.
cows to the homestead. So you are bought. When you go, property cannot own property. So you were moved around as property.
Yeah.
In your homestead, you were for bringing cows. In the homestead where you had been acquired, you were an acquisition. So you had really no rights. And we still see in some areas, certain pockets of that kind of discrimination. So girl child, women, we witnessed, not too long ago, remember that the late Vice President, Kijana Wamalwa, when he passed away, do you remember his wife being seated?
Yes.
In a circle with elders, and the elders were the ones who were determining how the property would be divided. And so you find that women were rendered destitute at widowhood and families, right? At marriage, if you could not prove your contribution, so that even the work, what we call the unpaid work that women do, being housewives, being at home, looking after the family, building the assets of the homestead, that was not considered work or a contribution. So unless you could show tangible contribution, you had no rights. You would literally, women were being divorced and rendered destitute, So, there's so many things. And then, of course, also, even though it was not stated in law, leadership was essentially, by practice and tradition, the preserve of men.
Okay, let's take a break at this point, then come back, and as we now marry what with some of those problems with how the constitution in Kenya has then changed some of those things, but then let's see how, if they are actually being practiced today, and if there's a problem, or if we're getting better as we go ahead, right? Daisy Amdany, the Executive Director of Crown Trust, is in the studio this morning, and our conversation is around constitutionalism and women's rights, and seeing how the Constitution has helped to protect those rights or foster those rights. And maybe if there's a problem, we'll see how that can be sorted out. We continue when we come back after this.